What is up, folks? You are listening to the High Tech Podcast, brought to you by Harness Tech, and I am one of the hosts. My name is Josh. If you listen to the podcast, you know that already. So, hi to returning listeners. If you're new, welcome. I'm glad you just kind of like tripped into the podcast. But surprise, I'm not alone. We also have another host. You want to say hi, Will?
Who's that? Is it me? Hi,
Who is
folks.
it?
I'm Will, one of two co-hosts of the High Tech Podcast, brought to you by Harness Tech. Hey, see, we both did it.
Nailed
practice.
it. Look at us. We remembered to say it. We keep forgetting to say it sometimes. It's a new thing that we're doing. But, not Harness Tech. It's been around for a year now, but, it's newer, I guess, in the grand scheme of the world. We're all new.
Preach.
Yeah, exactly. Except for oh my gosh, the actor who plays Ant-Man.
Paul Rudd.
He's not new. He's been here since the day of the universe. And he has never aged.
Isn't that the best joke? It's in the Deadpool and Wolverine trailers right now. Deadpool points up at them and goes, Paul Rudd can age, because it's like a dead suit.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't know that it's actually Paul Rudd. So.
You know what episode releases? The 23rd. Will we have seen Deadpool by then?
No, it's that week. It's that Thursday.
It's that week.
Tuesday. In 2 days, we're going to see Deadpool when this episode comes out.
Yeah, exactly. Not in 2 days right now. We still have to wait a little bit longer. We're recording this before, big surprise. Anyway, we're very excited for that movie. In case anybody was curious, we're both big fans of Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds and Deadpool and Wolverine, Yeah.
All four of them, frankly. I'd hang out with any of them.
Exactly. Is Wolverine your favorite X-Men?
Absolutely.
Is that your
hands down 10 out of 10 times? Wolverine is just that character that I fell in love with during the animated cartoon days.
Okay.
He was the Saturday morning cartoon that I just looked forward to. He was always going to be there. He was always going to be hardcore, the claws, the regeneration. So
yeah,
I'm a big fan. And Hugh Jackman nailed it for my sake. I know some people don't like that he's taller and but
that's not his fault. Yeah, whatever.
Exactly.
They could have made him be on his knees the entire X-Men movies. That would have totally changed everything.
Could you imagine? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's like some Borderlands stuff right there. It just chop them off at the knees.
Look at all the nerd references we're pulling off in just the first 3 minutes of this episode. It's solid.
How we do.
It's great.
How we do,
really
folks.
Good. Yeah. Anyway, before we get into our content, well, actually, no, I need to do our reminders. Then I'll ask this question. I came up with an idea of a question I think I'm going to ask you more regularly now.
Okay. All right.
I'm excited. At our co-working space today. Anyway, okay. So real quick, a couple of reminders. If you're listening to the High Tech Podcast and you do not subscribe or follow us on our socials or where you listen to the podcast, whether on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts, wherever you listen to us, YouTube. I know there's other ones, but they have names that I don't remember. So if you listen to those two, you can subscribe there. But make sure to subscribe. It helps us. It helps you, as we've talked about before. It's a very helpful relationship. We can just do this very symbiotic, so make sure you subscribe and follow where you can. On socials, we are either at High Tech Podcast or at High Tech Pod. I know you wish it was all the same thing, but it's not. And sometimes you don't get what you want. You get what you need, and what you need right now.
Always get what you want.
Is two socials. Okay, so at High Tech Podcast or at High Tech Pod, you can find us. Our new social media manager, Chris, is killing it. So make sure you go follow us. He is posting content on a regular basis, clipping us. So far none of them have been embarrassing, but I'm waiting for that because we say a lot of stupid things on this podcast sometimes.
There's a chance.
Make sure you go follow, check us out on all socials. If you want to get in touch with us, you can email us at inbox@hightechpod.us. This is the best way if you want to be on the podcast, you want to suggest something, you want to tell us who your favorite X-Men character is, whatever you want, you can hit us up there. Well, not whatever you want. We don't give gold to princes who are trapped. That's not a thing we do.
Or if you want Will to stop doing finger guns, just let me know. In the last week, though, in the last real-time week, not when this episode launches, but when we were recording it, we've actually had 2 different people in our inbox. So it's working. You can you can find us, follow up with us. And one of those people is going to be on the podcast here in the next couple of weeks. So it's good, right? Reach out. We can get you set up.
Very much. Unless your name is George. No, I'm just joking. I don't know. I was trying to pick a name. And George is the first thing that came to my mind.
Poor George.
Yeah, I don't know. Whatever. Sorry, George. Also, you can find us at our website, hightechpod.us. Make sure you go check that out. We put lots of cool stuff. Any links we reference, because you can't click on them in a podcast. I don't know if you know that. You can't click on our faces if you're watching the video, or click on your radio. I don't know, because it's 1950s, whatever you like to do. You have to go to our website. So we post lots of cool and fun links and things there. So make sure you head over to our website to check out all of that. Okay, that's our spiel. That's our fun stuff. That's making sure we do all of those things. My question for Will is this. So here, a little background, folks. Today was my first day. So
I have no idea what's happening here, folks. I'm excited.
Those of you know, I've transitioned jobs. Okay, and just he'll appreciate this. Just found out today my new boss is listening to the podcast.
Hi, Joe.
Yeah, hello. You now heard this reference. I've transitioned jobs, but in that I'm now working remote. I've joined that life, but I still like seeing people. So I've always wanted to come to the amazing, I'll give a promo for it, Candy Factory. If you live in Lancaster, it's a great co-working space, at least so far that I can tell. I've been there a couple times with Will, but I've never actually worked from there. So I wanted to try it out. I've been testing it out this week as a possible option to be able to go to. Right there, the link is on our video. If you're listening to just audio, remember, go to our website. I'll make sure to put that link there. So you can go check it out. It's a super cool place. I call it kind of bougie. It's a sweet place. But anyway, today was the first day I did that. And the space that Will and his wife Marissa set up at is you're kind of out in the middle of everything, which is kind of cool. It's fun. So I sat up there, I was listening. And there's a lot of people talking. So here's my new question. Will, what's the funniest thing you've heard today?
Oh no. Oh, what was that thing I laughed at? Oh no, it was so good. Okay.
I want to see if you remember.
Yep. So folks, we're in a bit of a heat spot here in Pennsylvania in July. It was like 97 degrees today. And for a little bit this morning, they had the door open, the front door open at the Candy Factory. And so it's, they had the AC on, but it was getting a little muggy. And somebody mentioned it. And, oh yeah, it's humid enough. Let's close the door. So they closed the door. But somebody came back and forth through the day. And when he came back from lunch, he just started speaking up with somebody about something. He's just like, and just the way he said it too. I mean, it's mostly factual. He goes, could you imagine? It's so hot. It's ridiculous. This world, climate change, blah, blah, blah. He's like, could you imagine if we had just listened to Al Gore? And the way he said it was just so sassy, so quick. And I just it took me aback. I'm like, what? All right. Yeah, I guess if we had just listened to Al Gore, would that have changed climate change? Not by my opinion. The amount of time we need to fix a global issue is not 10 years or even 20 years, folks. But it kicked me. Was that the thing? Is that what you thought?
Yeah, that was what I was thinking. That's the funniest thing I've heard today. It was the way he delivered it. It was kind of just like, you imagine if we listened to Al Gore in a public room with a whole bunch of people around trying to work. It was a great delivery. I really hope somebody was on a call and that ended up in heard that. That's my dream. Anyway, that's our fun thing. So occasionally, if our schedules continue and I keep doing this, almost probably every Tuesday, Will and I will be there together on a regular basis. So that's gonna be my new thing. I want to know what you thought was funny here today. Yeah, what did you hear? Anyway, I can't wait. Yeah, it's gonna be great. Okay, we are continuing our series on productivity, which, in case you were curious, Will and I are not more productive if we're sitting next to each other. It's just a note. Doesn't mean we weren't getting our jobs done, but we definitely were not as productive.
Let's put it this way. Josh was not as productive as he usually is because I was there and I was distracting him. I'll spade a spade. It's fine.
It's whatever. I got the stuff done I needed to get done that day. I will note that. So, my boss
Joe, he did his job.
I did my job. But I was laughing slightly more while doing it. Anyway, so yes, we're talking about productivity this week. Specifically, I want to lean into this question of how do we reduce anxiety in this tech-heavy world? A little bit of background I want to give, and then I'm gonna toss it over. I'm gonna, lob it over to Will to slam it out of the park on the answers.
Perfect.
But little background of why we put this question in here. This whole productivity series is not just about being productive. I think from Will and I's perspective, this is us wanting to talk about how to reduce mainly anxiety and maybe make some order out of some chaos, you know.
Right.
But I noticed a lot of people who work frantic and stressed. And in some cases, it's not avoidable. We're never going to avoid that entirely. But I've learned especially over the last like 5.5 years, under the last boss I was working under and friend who I would consider, who Will knows well too.
Yeah.
I learned a lot of things that helped me rethink how I tackle work, and honestly helped me get things done in a more reliable way than I did before. So it's not just about reducing anxiety. I think it's about, you know, enhancing our dependability, being there for people, delivering on the promises we make, and not killing ourselves trying to do it. Right.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a lot of the background in this series. And that's why we wanted to focus a little bit on, okay, we've talked so far about what does it mean to be productive, building a system for yourself. We talked about what key tools you need in that process. But now we want to talk a little bit about some of the practices we've noticed, and I've seen other people do that I wish I would do more often, that have helped reduce that. So that's where we're at. Okay. Now, Will, tell everybody listening to the podcast how they can fix their lives. Go.
Exactly. Just step 1, 2, 3. Here's the silver bullet, right? Well, and like, I know I've experienced anxiety in the context of work. I think the reason anxiety comes up, right, is that when trying to be productive, we are trying to hit goals. We're trying to meet deadlines. We're trying to produce content. We want there to be a certain level of quality, right? So with those standards and those expectations, you get the opportunity for anxiety. Not everybody gets anxious about this stuff, right? That's fine. I have been more and less anxious at different times in my professional life, right? I think these days I'm pretty good, but there was times early on in my career where I was anxious all the time. Like, am I going to get this stuff done on time? Is my boss going to like it? Like, I feel more comfortable in some of that stuff today than I did back then, but still, this is something that a lot of us probably wrestle with. I think that as we consider the role and even how we pose the question, right? How to reduce anxiety in a tech heavy world, part of the anxiety comes from the timeliness, the time orientation of work. And technology is all built on a clock. Maybe not all technology, but digital technology, software, working productivity technology is all built in a clock. Everything is about how quickly you can get something done. If you have a software, they're all built with clocks inside of them. When I look at my computer right now, I see the clock in the bottom right-hand side. Josh and I are watching The Bear. Okay, here we're not going to get any.
That is a stressful show.
We're not getting any tags and like social connections to The Bear and Hulu out of this podcast.
But if anybody from The Bear wants to be on the High Tech Podcast, I'll talk about cooking. I don't care. Exactly. I'll change topics. I know it's not on brand at all, but Chris,
Let's
they
make
will
it
be
happen.
on the podcast. That's all that matters.
Inbox at hightechpod.us. If Jeremy Allen White wants to be on the pod or anybody from that group, I'm in.
Yeah.
No, but so I'm watching season 3 right now. Josh has already finished it, but like I was watching the last episode and just noticing it came to me how much the clock is a part of the show. It's not just cooking. Yes, the clock is a part of cooking. Jeremy Allen White in a flashback is asked by a girl interest, what's the worst day of the week? What's your worst day in your life? And he said Saturdays at 8:15 p.m. Right? Like he's got this in mind, like this experience that's happening at a time. But the clock is so important in the show because everything's happening on a time thing. And I think that one of the initial thoughts I have before we even get Josh and I have some ideas about what we want to share for practices, but very first and foremost is addressing your relationship to time. Are you okay working at 11:59 p.m. for a 12 a.m. deadline? If you're okay with that and you're comfortable and doesn't bring you anxiety, mazel tov, do whatever you want. Like you don't need our advice. But if you are feeling stressed out at 2 p.m. on a Thursday because your deadline is 5 p.m. on a Friday, you might be the person that wants to listen to some of our ideas, right? Like you're a day away from your deadline. You're already stressed out about whether or not you've hit it, if you're going to make it as good as you want it to be. All these thoughts start to come to you. because we're trying to be productive. So my first suggestion and practice
Destroy
is
clocks.
to start destroy clocks.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I had to.
Grab a little piece of paper and just put it over the clock in your bottom right hand corner of your
Find that
computer.
watch and burn it.
Throw it against the wall.
Yeah, exactly.
Throw
Sorry,
it out the
continue your
window.
actual thought.
No, that's right. Reflection. Stop and process this question. I mean, this is something, reflection is always a good practice. We love reflection at this podcast. We love the Reflection app by Holsty. You can always go check out Reflection app. Good tool to use in this practice. But I'm going to ask you, like, stop now. Maybe pause the podcast for a second. Reflect on this question. What is your relationship to time as it pertains to work? I think this can bleed out into everything else. It doesn't have to just be work, but we are trying to stay on a kind of productivity, a work focus with this. So what is your relationship to time? I know for myself, there are times in my life where time has been less important and I've gotten things done and I've gotten things done a little later. And I haven't been bothered. And I know times in my life where I'm stressed out. Even 3 or 4 weeks ago, I was pretty stressed with a project at work because the deadline was coming up. And I'll tell you, in the next week, we're recording here in the beginning of January, in the next week, I'm going to start getting a little stressed out again because I've got another deadline coming up. Reflect on it. Try and process where that is for you, because you can start to measure out what you need to do based on how stressed you are. If you're not stressed, Mazel tov. Take these ideas we're about to share with the rest of the podcast and share them to your most anxious friend. Maybe share them to somebody at work who might need them, right? It's not just us trying to share the podcast, please do. But like the things we're about to continue talking about are other ways to start to figure out what you need to do at the stress levels. If you're just a 1 out of 5, you're good to go. If you're a 4 out of 5, you're going to need some things. If you're a 5 out of 5, call a professional. We're just here to give you some ideas. Another thing that I think is really important has actually helped me since going remote. Ironically, when I worked in an office, breaks were pretty practical, were pretty natural. Even when I worked in an office, right? There was always just a break walking somewhere for another meeting, right? It's okay. If I had a meeting at 10 a.m., I had to get up from my desk at 9:52 and start to walk. Yeah, it was a long walk, man.
He walked uphill both ways. It was crazy. Snow.
In the snow.
Yeah.
No, but like if I had a 10 o'clock meeting in another building on campus, I had to leave at 8:52, right? And I got 8 minutes to walk to the other building. And if the rooms were closer or further, that was a break. It was a mental space to not be at my screen, not be thinking about the deadlines, not be thinking about the practice of the day, whatever it was, right? And it was a break. Mm-hmm. So that went away actually with working from home. Everybody says there's all these distractions, you're working from home, things be yes, and if you're in work and you're like nose down, blinders are on, dude, it's very easy to lose track of 3 hours or 4 hours or 5 hours. I've done it. It's possible. So yes, on a lighter work day where you may not have as many tasks, you might not have to worry about breaks. But if you're in a busy season like me, I have 2 to 3 busy seasons in a year leading up to a compliance cycle where I am nose down for 2 weeks straight. I have to schedule breaks. I have to make sure I stand up and walk away. These are just 2 simple practices: reflection, take notice of where you are; breaks, plan them in when you need them. You may not always need to take regular breaks. That's okay. You may be the person who can go kind of do the laundry, step away to cook lunch, blah, blah, blah. I'm not like that. I don't usually get that flexibility, right? My wife has a little more flexibility around the lunchtime usually. So she does that. She can step away. She'll cook lunch for us real quick. I come down at 12 o'clock, 12:01, and we're eating, right? It's great. But that's even changed for her right now. In the last 4 or 5 weeks, she has not cooked lunch consistently any week. Like there's been a few days here and there, right? But like we've been crazy in our household because neither of us can stop at 11:30 or 11:45 and get something in the microwave or get something in the oven. So those are my first 2 ideas. I'm not going to go write down my whole list, Josh, but I'll pitch something over you or get some feedback based on those initial thoughts.
So my ideas are the opposite of all of Will's. I know, I'm just joking.
Chain yourself to your desk.
Take no breaks. Oh no, I mean on the break side, Very true. I'm noticing that a bit on remote. I mean, before I switched fully remote, I did, obviously remote over COVID, but I was hybrid, so I did do some remote work. And Will's right. Breaks are more average than novice. Now, I will say what solves that problem for me, okay, is just the coffee is downstairs. So, like when my mug runs out,
I have to go get it.
Now, I'm going to need to work on reducing anxiety by making sure I don't drink too much coffee because it has been far too easy to drink an absurd amount of coffee at home. Like a lot. It's a problem. Anyway, even the reflection thing I like, right? Like I don't think it's also just reflecting on like questions like what Will's talking about, which are very important. Like I was immediately thinking, what's my relationship with time? It's kind of an on and off again relationship. But
yep.
Like reflecting on work has helped me reduce some of that anxiety, and I need to be doing it more now. I was doing it as a regular practice in my last job because we were requiring people to do it. I'm a part of that decision. But sorry people, not sorry, it helped, whatever you want to say. I was doing that more. I've been finding myself doing it less since I've entered the new job because nobody's asking me to do it. And so I start to get to the end of the day. They end a little bit earlier than I'm used to. So I'm like trying to still figure out my workflow and what everything looks like, which if anybody knows, I haven't had that type of anxiety for 5.5 years. So I'm trying to like work through that right now. But like reflecting on what you've gotten done or what you have to get done, I think is super helpful. It allows you to kind of take a look at things. And one of the things I think that was popping in my head, I'm not currently doing this, but I want to start doing it, is reflecting on what am I stressed out the most about at work, and like what could help me not be stressed out about that. Could I use help? Like if I'm hitting a deadline at the end of the week and there's just no way that this is going to end up happening, do I talk to somebody about it? Do I talk to the person who I'm working with on that project about it to see if we can change that deadline? Is there something I can talk to he keeps coming up. I'm not trying to. Is there something I can talk to my boss about it? I'll use my last boss, Eric. He's,
hey, there you go.
Yeah, he's cannon fodder now. I don't work there. Like, do I talk to him about having to remove something? I was doing that a lot at my last job about like, do we have to reprioritize and do some stuff, right? So like, but reflecting allows you to do that. I think what I noticed most about myself when I was frantically working and others is like everything's a priority, and they just kind of like we think we're going to be able to fit everything in, right? The amount of times I hear people go, and I said this too,
we can get it
for a while. Well, we can fit that in somewhere. I mean, like, can we? Did you look somewhere? Like, is there a slot to fit that in? If there isn't, something's going to eventually have to move, right? So like one of my highest things is start practicing prioritizing, right? Start prioritizing what you're going to do, right? And why, right? Like I've noticed so many people, our natural tendency is to start with the easiest tasks, which is okay to a certain extent. Sometimes it can be motivating, get a lot of stuff done, right? But if you only do the small tasks, and this is why we procrastinate some of the bigger stuff that causes stress, that ends up coming to bite us later, right? Like all of us have been there. We did all the small stuff. Friday rolls around, and that giant, in Will and I's case, that course that we haven't been working on for the past 4 days is coming due. Like it needs to go to the stakeholders for review, or the subject matter expert, or whatever.
Or it launches on Monday, like, oh crap.
Monday, right? So prioritize. That was a big game changer for me, right? Is prioritizing what I was going to do and focusing on the highest priority first. And if you want to, I think there's a lot of different ways to prioritize, but one of my base stuff was kind of, okay, what is somebody else waiting on me for? Okay. And what is going to hurt me the most if I don't hit the deadline? Right? Yeah. Like those were the things I looked for. How can I help other people? Is there somebody, if I don't hit this deadline, this is going to impact them? And what stuff is going to hurt me the most? And I can already hear it. Some of you listening to the podcast are going to go, Josh, that's everything. I don't care where you work, what you do. That's not everything. It's not even a doctor in a doctor's office. There is not everything they do every day that will cause someone to die. I don't like
triage.
There's administrative work for a reason, and everybody hates it. Okay, like that's not like the.
Yep.
I'm not saying, again, there's really high stress jobs. There's different, like I'm not speaking broadly to everything. Somebody's gonna get annoyed at me somewhere.
I hope
don't,
so. Frankly,
I
I
hope
want
so,
somebody to
yeah.
be annoyed. That means they're listening.
Yeah. So anyway, but generally, I would argue that that's not everything you're doing.
Right.
Right. And so prioritize, right? The other thing I think has really helped me, and this is stuff productivity people talk about all the time, but I really do think it matters, is a lot of people will do these things that we call daily and weekly reviews. They're just a practice that you take where you look at what your week is going to look like first. Okay. And I tend to do this on Friday. People will do this on Monday. Monday is very stressful to me because you're just starting your week, you're getting into things.
Yeah.
So what I'll do is I'll look at Friday and go, okay, what are the things are most important to get done next week? Okay, what do I need to get done most important? And I use that lens of other people and what's going to kill me if I don't get it done to prioritize. And then I prioritize those things first during the week, right? So you get the hardest stuff out of the way early. This is probably part of the reason I eat my vegetables before I eat the food that I really like every time I eat dinner. It's like it's a personality thing. Like I want to end on the stuff I like,
Yep.
So hit that stuff first though. And I'm not saying you just hit everything you don't like in the beginning. That's different. It's priority. Okay. So prioritize out your week. The other thing when you're doing priority is so there are these two different practices people will use. Will and I have talked about them before. You've seen them on my dashboard template. We've referenced a few times now in the series. Which is time blocking and time boxing. For me, these practices have been incredibly helpful.
Time boxing, is this like you put clocks on your hands and you just kind of go at it? Like
clearly, that's clearly
is this
what
something
it is.
for the TVA?
Yeah, it's where you just punch clocks,
That's really so we're back to clock punching.
Yeah, we're back to destroying time. I told you it was an off and on again relationship. That's part of
a lot of clock hate here. I can't stand for this.
No, so if you don't know what these are, okay, they're nothing like life-changing. I didn't make these up. They've been around for a long time. Yeah. But time blocking involves kind of assigning a set time for tasks, right? So you're going to do this type of task in this set time. You're pretty strict about I have to have it done by this time. So you might set a lot of people do this on their calendar, right? Like Will, I don't know if you've been doing this right at this point. Where you might set 9 to 11 I'm going to work on whatever this thing. Right. It's a specific task, right? Another practice that's a little bit different that I often honestly interchange them, but they are different, is time boxing, right? So you will actually set an individual box of time, several of them throughout your day, and then you limit activities you're going to do that day to those blocks, right? The difference being, at least in my understanding, time blocking is specifically I block this time for this task. Time boxing is I organize my entire day by these boxes of time, and then I fit tasks into them. So I personally am a fan of time boxing. I haven't done a lot of time blocking, though I do it occasionally on my calendar, because time blocking, while it works from time to time, sometimes you don't get tasks done in that block. So you have to kind of figure out what are you going to do from there, and then you end up blocking more time on your calendar for somewhere else, and the next thing you know, your entire week just ended up getting blocked for that entire task. That's the thing. It just
pushes things out of it. It's just dominoes in the worst way.
Time boxing for me has helped me when I'm doing my weekly review, where I'm looking at what am I going to get done that week. I can kind of fit some stuff that I think is doable in certain boxes throughout my days and try to work on those. And then if I don't get them done in those boxes, it helps me reprioritize each day what needs to get moved and what needs to be focused on. So if I don't get a task done in my morning block that I have, I look at my afternoon and go, okay, what in my afternoon can't happen today? And if that can't happen, then what can't happen in the next 2 days because of these things, right? And that sounds stressful, but what it actually does is it starts to help you kind of reprioritize on a daily basis what you're going to be doing, and it gives more voice to when you need to reach out to someone, or when you need to get help, or when you need to tell someone I'm not going to get this done by Friday, I'm sorry, and this is why, right? That's really helped reduce stress for me. So I do that weekly review. I figure out what I want to do for a week, and then I do a daily review, which is basically just the end of my day before the day that I'm doing it for. So if I'm doing a daily review for Tuesday, I'll do it Monday before I close out for work. I'll look at going, what's not done, what needs done, what did I say I was going to do tomorrow? Do I need to move anything around? Do I need to change some stuff? What meetings do I have? And I start to block out my day for that whole day, so I know when I'm going to be doing things each moment. Will knows I'm a little insane about this. I do it like by hour. I have larger blocks of time, and then within that time I do hourly blocking. But in my experience, what that's actually done is it just helps me know what I'm going to do that day. And it forces me to do the other thing that I think is the biggest thing. Okay. Waiting before doing something. The amount of people that I see go into a meeting, come out of that meeting, and just immediately start working on the thing in that meeting that was an action item is insane. And that's part of the reason things don't end up, we just keep fitting more and more into our days. And what time blocking or time boxing has done for me is go, this is how much I can fit in a day. So when I'm in that meeting, I can say to someone, I know you want it tomorrow, but I'm not going to be able to get it done tomorrow. Right. For whatever reason. Now, I don't always do that if it's like a big priority, like a really big emergency we're actually working on, though I don't think those exist very often in instructional design, the fields that Will and I work in, because we're designing courses. We're not saving people who are dying. I'm sorry, like it's not
There's
the same
no
thing.
emergency. Yeah.
There's no emergency, but if there's something that really needs done for somebody or something I can help somebody out with, I might look at my day tomorrow and go, you know what, I can remove that from that block. That can wait 2 more days. I'll do this for them.
That's the system allows flexibility, but this you still stand on the system itself, right? You stick to your guns. Mm-hmm. This is when it's going to happen. This is how it happens. As you need to, you adjust. But otherwise, if hey, the beautiful thing is, what happens in a week where nothing becomes an emergency, right? You can just go about the plan and do the plan. That is a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Yeah. And that's just reduced stress for me. It allows me to organize my day and know what I'm going to jump into that day. And just work on that prioritizing. At the end of the day, here's the thing that's really interesting. Those very specific practices I've mentioned hold a lot of the general ones Will's talking about. You're reflecting on what you're going to be doing. You're taking breaks. Here's the other thing about time boxing that you need to do. Don't fill every box. Every day. I see people start doing that and they're like, well, time boxing didn't help. Well, that's why. I'll often leave like 2 to 3 boxes open before I start my day, knowing that something's going to come up to derail what I was planning to do. So if I'm not booked to 100%, I cannot stress about those things, right? Like I can deal with those and figure out a time I'm going to address it, right? And I might decide to deal with it later. That thing doesn't need to happen today. I'm going to put it in my task system for tomorrow. We'll deal with it. I'll get it boxed out at the end of the day to figure out where I'm going to put it, right? Like that's that de-stresses me because I know where things are going to go, right? And you know how you're going to tackle what you have in front of you. Well, I mean, would you agree that like a lot of people's stress comes from they don't know how they're going to get everything done? Like at least when we're talking from a work standpoint, right?
Absolutely. Like I listened to, my wife's going through a big work project right now. Shout out, Marissa, love you, my number one.
Yeah.
And
well, Ted Lasso. It was that episode you said Ted Lasso before her. I'm just saying. Sorry, I just got Will in trouble. Okay, sorry. Continue.
This is the clip that Chris is going to put out there. This is it. Thanks, Chris. Thanks. You're just.
I don't remember what episode number it was, but it happened. That's all I'm saying.
No, never happened. I don't know what you're talking about. I love you, Marissa. I love you, Chris. Thanks for throwing me under the bus. I can't wait for this to be a clip. Anyways,
she doesn't listen to us anyway. It's fine.
It's fine. What were we talking about?
Sorry, I was talking about like stress coming from people not knowing when they're going to get things done, and you're talking about Marissa and her experience.
So she's going through a big project right now. There's a project manager, lots of things moving, lots of stuff going on, and I see the stress she's living under. Right, you can almost always see someone else's stress better than you can see your own, because other people don't have their plan. Other people are not doing their side of the project management to set the time, set the cadence, set the orchestration, etc. So yeah, I'm 100% with you. One thing, I have another item in my list that I think already plays on what you were saying. Like Josh has given you guys some very specific tactics: prioritize, daily, weekly reviews, time blocking,
Play video games.
time blocking
Sorry, I forgot that one.
boxing, throw some video games in there. One of my things here is hobbies, so that's worth noting. But I'll say, we are not talking about email notifications and cell phone notifications as much here because we already have talked about notifications as their own issue. But one of the issues with notifications is how many different apps you're using that are all sending you notifications. And so something like Josh's work methodology here on doing his planning does suggest my idea here of consolidating your tools. If you are working in more than one project management tool, if you are allowing people to ping you in Google Docs and tag you in Asana and send you a Jira ticket, like boom, notifications, right? But like it's just less effective. It's less efficient. It's more stressful when you have to manage 3 systems, especially when you could use one. Like you don't have to use tons of different systems. This is not everybody's choice themselves, right? I understand that sometimes you are required to use the systems that are available at work. No problems. But when you have the opportunity, when you have the sway, consolidate. Make less tools to do your work in, because ironically, and definitely the industry wants you to have more tools. The industry, educational technology, right? Or just software as a service, like your tech stack, quote unquote. The industry says more and more and more. They want you to spend more money. They want you to have more products. They want you to have more software. I work at a company that had at one time Trello, Monday, Asana, Jira, and probably other project management tools actively being subscribed to at one business. That's just inefficient. But for your sake, reduce as much as you can. The last 2 things I have on my list, definitely step away from the productivity side of things, kind of, and focus on how you can reduce stress against this tech heavy world. And I think the first one's way obvious, but I'll just put it out there. Like, take up an analog hobby. I think my martial arts practice is like one of those things that just gets me into a physical space. Very, very cleansing, very, very renewing for me. My wife, Marissa, uses yoga. Some people knit. Just today, Marissa had a huge stressful day. I was about to offer to cook dinner so that she could rest, but I kind of saw how agitated she is. And please, folks, take me at my word here. I let her cook dinner because she needed to get out of her head. And she said so afterwards. She's like, oh, it was really good to just use my hands and like step out of the craziness that was my day. And I was like, I would have loved to still cook dinner and maybe tomorrow that's all I'll do, right? So she can sit and not. But like today, it was really obvious she needed to get away from her cell phone, her computer, the messages, the emails. And I felt that plenty of times myself in life where it's like, dude, I've done yard work just because it was a way to step away from the craziness at the computer. I don't know. I think Josh may feel mildly differently, or at least focus on a hobby. I like to suggest the analog nature of one. Doing something that's physical can be really helpful, but I don't know if you've got a different opinion on that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm weird on this one. Where like I just am not as bothered by. Now I do there's other stuff I do that's not technology oriented. Right. Whether it's involvement in, I mean, for me, it's like church stuff, but like there's
even game
hang out with like game nights
a good
and stuff
example
like that.
Of getting out and do physical stuff.
I also like it's probably a problem. I probably should spend less time on the computer, but it also doesn't like, I don't know, it doesn't stress me out nearly as much to be like I don't feel.
And we're back at my first suggestion, right?
Forces me to go do those other things, so I end up going and doing those other things anyway. I just real quick, I did want to just do one thing. Which is
shut up.
I wanted to give Will some medals for his great husband move. Sure. That's he both got dinner and was helpful. That's all I'm saying. I don't.
Second clip. Here's the second clip, and I'm screwed.
Yeah, I don't know. This is great. Sorry. No, I just think that's important. Like now, I would argue. For me, what the biggest thing is finding ways to step away from the notification. Like we talk about notifications, but for me, the stressful thing is the notifications part, the stuff that I'm finding out about. So like most apps now today have office hours, like use those hours, don't respond when you're doing things. One of the things I've always looked for in the places that I'm going is people who respect the hours of work, right? That you're not hired for 24/7. That you have family, you have other stuff that you're doing. Like, take advantage of those things. The most stressed out people I find are the ones who are doing work like at midnight after work.
Yeah.
Like, and
boundaries.
Like I've heard people talk about, like, even at a project level, going like, well, it's just how projects work. In the final week or so, you really just have to buckle down and put in extra hours to get the project done. Listen, I know I'm slightly cocky, okay? I'm a little full of myself. My beard is long. But if you're having to do that on a project, the project's failed. I'm sorry. Like, if you are working after hours to put in extra hours to get the project done, the project wasn't planned well. You need more hours. Like, that's not okay with me. Okay, so like that's the stuff that I think helps reduce your anxiety. Like, step away, get away from those notifications. We've talked about that already. You can go listen to that episode. It was the final episode before season 7 when we took our month break. I don't remember the number.
152.
Just go to season 6 on our website and look at the last episode. Check that out. We talked about notifications, getting that stuff under control. Okay, so we talked about that extensively, but just kind of like hammering back to that and going back to that. Like, just do not work when you're not supposed to be working. Right? That's not going to make you better at your job. It's going to make you worse long-term. And I can speak from experience as someone who used to do that before I got this intense about stuff. There's a reason I got this intense about stuff, because I burned out hard in my first job and I needed to not make that happen again. So this is why I'm so passionate about that, is because I have yet to meet a person that I know that's working after hours who is not stressed out.
Yeah.
I just haven't. Right. So I think that's kind of that's my final pitch, I think, there, if you will. Will,
I think we've gotten a good amount of ideas here. It's not like we numbered them out or we need to, but I think there's everything from practical to philosophical here. I think there's some, like hobbies or reflecting. These are just things you can do for yourself, but hopefully, folks, you take advantage of these ideas and share them with others. If you're an educator, these are things you can be challenging your students to do today. It'd be great to be teaching kids in the K-12 space. It'd be great to be teaching college students these skills that they can be managing themselves better, because part of the reason this happens to us, these stress cycles happen to us, is because there's not enough good practices in the workforce. And what we know from education, Josh and my background, is that modeling good behavior is one of the best ways to teach behavior. Show the learners, show people how to be, right? If folks are being stressful by setting tight deadlines and freaking out on people when they're not met, those are behaviors we can observe, and those are behaviors we can address. Behavior can be changed. And so the positive thing is, if you go into environments with these positive behaviors, you're going to start positively affecting your colleagues and the community and the world around you. Hold on to that. This is a powerful, powerful thing. It's just as powerful as wearing a smile when you walk into a space, or using people's names when you talk to them. These are habits of relationships that can change everything. It can make everything that much better by being more positive, more lighthearted, less stressed around your family, around your coworkers, around other people. So I hope you can take these and run with them, folks, and just go be the good Jedi you need to be, and change the world for the positive. I think these are one of those things, like, yes, this is about making our lives better. Yes, feel better yourself. Yes, be more productive, but it also can change the world. And I think that's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
If I could just lean on that for 1 second, I know you were coming to the conclusion. I could feel the Will voice, but
I was leaving space.
Okay, cool. Specifically, I would note, and this is speaking as somebody who has been in those situations and will be still in that situation, even in where I'm transitioning to, is that if you are in charge of people, set an environment that encourages this type of action, right? One of like I've been reflecting a lot as I've been transitioning jobs, right, on just my past 5.5 years at my last job, and a team that I was very proud to be a part of, and am happy to have been able to call friends and not just coworkers, right? And one of the things though that I am most proud of what we did on that team, and this is not all I was following lead of the lead I was behind. So I called him cannon fodder, but I'll call him out in this episode. Not that he listens to our podcast. He did tell me if we get Jason Fried from 37 Signals on our podcast, he will listen. So objective. But is that we built an environment that did this, right? We took the practices that we're talking about at a personal level and we applied them at a large level. We created time blocks for our team. We created slots where projects went. We created consistent boxing for how we did the work that we did. And I'm proud to say that we were able to build a team that while things got crazy at certain points, you know, we were able to build a space that was not hectic and was consistent and was a space where we were able to get good, valuable work done. Too often I see people proud of the fact that like, yeah, things are crazy here. Like that, it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be chaos.
Right.
I don't care what you do. It doesn't have to be chaos. So if you're leading in the space, use some of these practices with your team to, like Will is saying, like, it's not a joke. The world can be a better place if we would stop. I'm going to get on my soapbox, but I'm sorry. If we could stop being like Silicon Valley and making everything insane, and like just push. We are people. And if we build things like this, I am proud to say I was a part of a team that did that, and quite frankly, was still the most productive team at the organization that I was at. So it's not about pushing to be productive. It's about building systems that work to be productive, both personally and on a team level.
And when I left that job, that team, I left many of the same people Josh got to work with, but we were working in that weird world of just making it work when it could. And to know that Josh joined that team and then left it on the best note he could, folks, it's possible. He was a part of changing that team, and not the only part, but like, I know what that team was 6 years ago, and I know what that team is now that Josh left it. Like it's possible we can do this. Project management, productivity, de-stressing yourself are all possible. So with all of those exhortations in mind, we lift you up, oh fellow friends. Be well. We hope the best for you. If it's suddenly a benediction. But next time, we'll wrap the episode here. We're coming back on episode 157 next week with the 4th episode in our series here. We're going to think about how to think outside your inbox. Very nice little play on the usual thing. I think outside the box, right? But Josh and I have been picking a few punching bags for this series. Notifications was one of my punching bags. I think inbox is definitely one of Josh's punching bags.
So ready. I'm so ready to punch the inbox in the face. It's going to be great.
But how to think outside your inbox is an exciting conversation where we're going to tackle like productivity from the inbox standpoint. So many people work from it. And is it good? Is it bad? Josh, let them answer the question next week.
I have feelings.
I can see him get so excited. Until then, folks, follow us on socials, please. And thank you at High Tech Podcast or at High Tech Pod. You can email us inbox at hightechpod.us to join the podcast. If you want to address anything we've spoken about, if you'd like to combat our message, we're happy to talk with people who don't like us. It's not a problem. I don't know if there are any. It's fine. We don't have to be out there. But if you want to address,
they haven't maybe not like the podcast, but I mean, like there's a list. I have people.
There's a few.
If you're listening, you can come on. It's fine. I promise.
We'll do it well. Hightechpod.us is our website. All of our information, all of our social, our Notion affiliate links, everything that's brought to you by Harness Tech is there at Hightechpod or at hightechpod.us, the website. Okay, this is a wrap on another week. Empowering minds,
embracing tech.
Cheers.